Well, hi there everybody, and welcome to the first tutorial video for HCOS at home. And in this video we are going to be looking at the alto part for the Ave Verum Corpus of Mozart. So just to clarify, there are 4 different tutorial videos, each one looking at a different voice part of this little motet. Great little piece. I'm sure some of you already know it, some of you have heard it before. And one video for each voice part. So if you are an alto, or if you sing the alto part, then you are in the correct place. If you are a soprano, soprano, tenor, or bass, you are in the wrong place. And I'd like to now encourage you to close this video and open the other video, which is labeled with your voice part. So in the YouTube channel, you will see three other videos, one labeled soprano, one labeled tenor, and one labeled bass. That is, of course, unless you are here because you feel as though you would like to be promoted to the alto section. And if that's not the case, then now's the time to go. Okay, so altos, you're very welcome. It's great to see you. I say see you, you know what I mean. It's great to be here on the video with you. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and I hope you haven't missed your singing too much. I know I've missed my Thursday evenings with you all, and it seems right now to think about trying to do something along these lines to keep us all going, to keep us all singing together as much as we possibly can, as it seems that things aren't going to be changing a huge amount anytime soon. So we have chosen a couple of pieces to have a look at over the course of the next few weeks, and we're also going to be having some Zoom meetups on the Thursday evening, first of which is tomorrow night, which is going to be great fun. It's going to be chaos, but it's going to be great fun. And we're going to be looking at, as I say, some pieces that some of you maybe know quite well already, or have sang before, or have heard. But they're all great fun little pieces to have a look at. So the first of which is Ave Verum Corpus of Mozart. And we are going to have a look through in this video at the alto part in particular. We're going to go phrase by phrase. I'm going to play some of the parts. I'm going to sing some of the parts for you. I'm going to provide you with a few little piano parts that you can sing along to, and hopefully by the end of the video you should have a reasonably good idea of what's going on in this little piece of music. So that's the plan. Hopefully we should be here for around about 45 minutes or so, give or take, and as I say, by the end we should have a good idea of what's going on. And then when it comes to one of our Zoom calls, you never know, we might be able to try this all together and let the chaos begin. But for the meantime, please start this video as much as you like. You can access it as many times as you wish from the YouTube channel, and it's yours to do with whatever you wish. It would be good to say at this point that these are new videos, brand new, made this week. This is the first time that I'm doing this using this technology setup that I have here, so there are certain things that if they go awry, please forgive me. We're all in a new situation here. But on a serious note, it would be great to get some feedback from you about the content of these videos. So if there's anything in these videos that you think, well, that was great, but we'd like a little bit more, or he's moving too quickly, or I could have done with that, haven't been played again, anything along those lines, please let me or the performance committee know. And if you've got any other feedback at all that's useful in helping us make these videos better for you, or more usable for you, then again, please let us know. If you could avoid feedback on the general mess in the corner of the room behind me, that would be great. This is the room, as you can see, I'm in the eaves of the house, and this is the room where we put everything. We don't know where else to put things. And also, if you could avoid any feedback on my lockdown haircut, that would also be appreciated. But any musical feedback on the videos would be great. Right, altos, time to get warmed up, please, I think, before we do anything else. If you would like to stand up, please stand up if you can. If you can't, please make sure that you're sitting nice and straight in your seats, back straight, edge of the seat preferable, and make sure that you are uninhibited here. You can breathe nice and fully, maybe wise, giving the shoulders a little bit of a shrug. If you want to stretch the arms out, feel free, up above, to the sides. Just make sure that you are nice and comfortable. And if you're standing, feet shoulder width apart, let's make the knees nice and soft so that we're not too tense, so that we're not too rigid, and we will have a couple of warm-up exercises before we get started. So my keyboard is slightly out of shot here, but you can hear it, I'm sure, no doubt, and my pedal keeps running away from me down here on the floor, but hopefully not too much during this. So if I disappear, it's to get the pedal back. Okay, let's have a few exercises. Yeah, down the scale, and we move up a semitone at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. drop down the octave altos when you need to. One more. So if there's any second sopranos in there in the alto section, those top notes there should be absolutely fine for you. Second altos and or first altos, maybe you find that some of that was a bit high. As I say, just drop down the octave when you need to in these exercises, as we would do if we're meeting together on a Thursday evening. Let's something a bit quicker, please. Let's go for this one. 3, 4. Great, there we go. Okay, 2 exercises down. Let's do one more. Hopefully that one's a bit more energetic. It's got you moving around a little bit more. Not necessarily something that we're going to have to do in this piece that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be concentrating an awful lot more on long, smooth legato lines here and singing through the phrases. But nonetheless, hopefully that gets the voice warmed up and moving a little bit, particularly if we haven't maybe been singing quite as much as we would normally have been over the course of the last little while. One last exercise, altos please. Let's come down from the tonic, further and further away, and always back to the same note. Moo, 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 moo. Moo like a cow, please. 3 and 4. Excellent, good. Well, hopefully you're all warmed up altos now and ready to go. Right, so hopefully then you also have your music for the Ave Verum Corpus of Mozart in front of you. So we sent out a PDF and an email over the course of last week or so. I think it's been sent a couple of times now. So hopefully you have been able to print out that music. It's 2 pages. It's quite a short little piece, this one, obviously. And as I said earlier, probably many of you will know this piece probably quite well. Some of you may have come across it before, some of you may have sung it before, some of you may have just heard it before, and it may well be new to some of you as well. So whichever one of those categories you fall into, I hope you enjoy getting to know this one. It's a super little piece, and it's very, very singable and very readable from the point of view of what's on the page here as well. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start at the beginning and work through in chronological order from start to finish, looking at each of the different phrases that we have here. And we'll also have a little chat about the text. I'll give you a kind of rough translation of what's going on later on. We'll pop in some breath marks and things as we go as well. And we'll kind of do the nuts and bolts of this during this video this afternoon. What we probably won't do very much of this afternoon is we won't talk very much in the way of dynamics. We won't talk very much in the way of articulation or phrasing. We'll leave that until we have one of our Zoom meetings where we're all together, because a lot of those things are going to apply to all of the 4 voice parts. The only thing I would say to kind of take note of, please, before we begin, is at the start of the piece you'll see the mark in adagio. It's quite a steady pace. We're going to be ta, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 as an absolute maximum, but that flow and that sense of space needs to be there all the way through. You'll also see a marking in all 4 of the voice parts, sotto voce, in an under voice, a very soft, delicate sound is what the composer suggests here for the whole, well, not for the whole thing, but you could argue in some ways for the whole thing. It's not an overdone thing whatsoever here. It's quite an intimate little piece of music that should be sung in that way. So without further ado, we will begin at the start. Now altos, I'm sorry to say, in many respects here, you don't have very much of a tune in a lot of these places. You are, in effect, doing what you normally do, and you're filling in some very, very important harmony notes. There's a couple of occasions where you get something that almost resembles a tune towards the end of the piece, but in the first half, you're providing an awful lot more harmonic material that we really need, but it is maybe the most, well, I say enjoyable, maybe most challenging thing to sing is the way to put it. However, we will make it as enjoyable as possible. So, from the top, please, altos. Key of D major, right key, and you start on the 3rd of the chord, if you like, if you want to think of it in that way. And as I say, we're about this speed. 1, this is the introduction. Ave, Corpus, Natum te Maria Virgine. Okay, so that's your first phrase altos, and that takes us from the start up until the end of bar 10. So what we've got here is we've kind of got, I suppose, a phrase that should be split up into two parts. And I'd like to suggest that we do Ave Verum Corpus, and we breathe there on the comma. So if you would like to take your pencils and put a little marking in there, then that's a good place to start. All four voice parts will take the little break there, we'll have the breath. And then the second half, Natum de Maria Virgine, is what we have in the second part. As you can hear from that rendition there that you got from me, it sits around the kind of middle area of your voice for many of you and drops down to the kind of slightly lower end, and it doesn't have a particularly wide range here, this part. So here's the line on its own. There is the start note. I'll count you in. I shan't sing with you this time, I'll just play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can hear, a lot of that moves by step, and a lot of it is very close, if you like, from a point of view of not wanting to kind of over-emphasize some of these intervals. We've got to be careful of that. The most interesting thing you do is in the third bar you sing. At which point, if you have a look down at the piano part and or up at the soprano part, you'll see that you're actually singing there with the sopranos in thirds. So they have a nice tune over the top. You can mirror that tune underneath to create the harmony part. So here it is again, altos. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. 2, 3. Okay, that's the idea. That's the idea. So how does that fit into the overall kind of texture or context of what's going on at that point? Well, if we go back, first of all, finding your note. How do you find it? You've got 2 bars. And you're there. So there are a couple of ways to do this. If you have a look at the first bar, leading into the second bar, there's your note at the beginning of the second bar, and again. And you just come back down the way, if you see what I mean there. So in the second bar of the accompaniment, you'll see lead you back to the note that you're on. Okay, so you can either try and pick it up from the first beat of the second bar, this one, or here. Ave, Ave Verum Corpus, and the breath. Natum te Maria Virgine. And so on. Okay, so that's the way to kind of try and find that. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to play that now again without me singing, just so that you can sing over the top of it, and so that you can have an attempt to get in on that correct note. And we'll keep going through those 2 phrases. I will play your part for the meantime. I shan't do the full accompaniment. We will do a separate track with the full accompaniment that we can use once we get used to exactly what's going on here. But for the meantime, I'll give you a hand. It's an interesting one because in certain places in the accompaniment, he does help you. He gives you quite a lot of help, in fact. But in other places, he leaves you pretty much on your own. Or he hints at something, it's in there somewhere, but picking it out is quite a tricky one. Or he hints at something, but he also puts something else in there to help another part, which can be distracting for you, finding your particular note. So with all those things considered, some of these notes, although it looks quite straightforward, finding them in the first place can be the tricky thing. So here's the introduction, and then your phrases altos that you can sing along with up until the end of bar 10. From the top, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that takes us down to bar 10. Now our next phrase altos, you finish there. Shene, so you sang fear, shene. We go up the third, ta-ta, and we begin on Vere passum emulatum. 1, 2. In cruce pro homine. So again, we stay in a very narrow space here. We don't move too far at all. And we have some other quite interesting harmonic things going on round about us that can be quite off-putting. So one there that you probably heard as I was playing through is in bar number 14. So if you have a quick look at bar number 14, you'll see that you jump up to that G sharp, but the basses against you sing an E sharp. So they are kind of affecting the harmony here. We've got a bit of a key change going on, and they've got quite a chromatic moment there, if you like. So it shouldn't be too off-putting altos, but it's something to be aware of, that if you kind of latch onto it too much, that it might just kind of drag you in slightly the wrong direction. Your line up until that point has been quite straightforward, to be honest with you. We start on the E. This is bar 10, 11. Bar 11, 2, 3, 4. Re passum emulatum. 1, 2. In cruce pro homine. That's a full bar at the end there. So breathing wise here altos, I'd suggest vere passum emulatum. If we could take that all as one phrase, that would be fantastic. And then you've got a 2-beat rest there just before you sing in cruce pro homine. So the text here, vere passum emulatum in cruce pro homine. Cruce, a ch sound there, please. Okay, so let me play this for you. I won't sing this time. Let me give you a couple of times so that you can practice it. This is from the beginning of bar 11. Here's your starting note. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two. Good, that's the idea. So if you have a look with me, please, altos, at bar number 15 before we move on. Bar number 15, you'll see that you've got a 2-beat rest at the beginning of the bar there. And if you glance underneath you, you can see that the tenors also have a 2-beat rest and the basses also have a 2-beat rest. So altos, tenors and basses are all in the same position in this bar. And we're waiting here for the cue from the soprano part. The soprano part in this place has the tune, and we need them to sing that tune nice and firmly, in time and in place. And yes, I have warned them in their video that they are responsible here in this place for making sure that that is well placed so that we know, the rest of us, where to come in and how to place our particular line against what else is going on there. So this is a danger point for altos, tenors and basses, and you wouldn't believe how many times there's the occasional voice that just creeps in here a couple of beats early that just forgets that we've got to wait that little bit longer. So that is well worth a marking, please, folks. I would just pop something in there to remind yourself not to jump in there too early. It could be one of those places where, unless you're very careful, you end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is the kind of the 4 parts together. From part 11, sopranos, and here's you. So as you can see, that soprano part leads us in nicely to that place. Okay, we'll do that bit one more time, altos. And this time what we'll do is I'll give you the bar before you start singing. So we'll give you bar 10. In fact, no, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll go just so that we can find that note together. Okay, so here is bar number 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. A little interlude then ensues before we come in with the second half of the piece. Okay, so altos, if you like to think about that as being part one of the piece almost, up to that point, that is part A or part one, however, which way you would like to think about it. And I guess in many respects, the piece is almost kind of, split up into three short mini sections. That's the first one. The second one starts for the choir on the last 2 bars of the first page, and is a short section, a short kind of middle section, if you like, which is quite different. There's quite a few key changes in here. It becomes a little bit more chromatic. And that lasts up until the end of bar 29. And it's at the beginning of bar 30, 30. So that is the second page, top line, last bar, that we go back to something which is a lot more reminiscent in texture and in colour of that first part of the piece. So you can see the last bar of the top line of the second page. You can see there that you're singing once again with the sopranos rhythmically, and there's again we're back to our kind of much more kind of smoother kind of approach, so on and so forth. But we'll talk more about that articulation-wise when we're all together. For the meantime, before we move on to the second part, let's just go back to the beginning altos and let's see if we can run all of that together. So let me give you the 2-bar introduction as written, and then let me play something which is a quasi accompaniment with some help for you to find your particular notes so that you can get used to singing your part all the way through this first section here. So from the very beginning, with the introduction, your D major, your starting note is there. Okay, here is the intro. Off we go. 2, 3, 4. And the breath there, please. Sopranos. And here's your note altos. And so on and so forth. Okay, great. Well done. Okay, that's going to be fine. Let me leave that with you. As I said at the start of the video, you can stop this video, you can restart it, you can rewind it. If you want to relive the whole experience again, you can watch it as many times as you wish. But if you want to repeat any of those particular lines, or if you want to have that playthrough once again, just rewind the video and take that through as many times as you wish. Okay, let's move on. So after that section, as you can see at the bottom of the first page, there is a short interlude before the voice parts reappear in the last 2 bars of the first page. And the text here, folks, is, if you have a look with me, cuius latus perforatum unda fluxit et sanguine. So cuius, please, is the one that we always tend to get a mixture of opinions on. It is not cujuice, so put that out of your mind now. Any dairy farmers amongst you, leave that one be, please. We'll have cuius latus perforatum unda fluxit et sanguine. What does it all mean? Very good question. I'll tell you later. So let's get on with some more of the notes here. Apologies on Mozart's behalf for your line over the course of these next few bars altos. I would have both of your pages next to each other here so you can see as this kind of just continues straight over. So you begin on the note that you finished your previous little section on, so you can try and keep that note in your head as we move through the rest of this that little interlude. Not too difficult to do. Also, the note is very, very obvious in the interlude, which I'll play you in a wee while. But that's where we begin. And we've got this. 2, 3, 4. Cuius latus perforatum und affluxit et sanguine. Not a great deal to do altos. As I say, I apologise on Mozart's behalf that he's only given you that E for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4 bars. Not as bad as what he does to the tenors at the very start of the piece. If you want to see how much they've got to do, then you can have a quick look back at that once we're done. But let's just put it like this. I think 1 note / 2 notes for the first 8 bars is all they have to do. So you start on this E, which you finished the previous phrase on, and you have then that little jump up to the F natural in bar 25, very narrow. It's jaws territory altos. And so on and so forth. It's extremely narrow. Then we're back to our D. Und flu. Again, there's the F natural. Et sanguine. Coming down to the C sharp. A. So a lot of your intervals, having in that first section been not particularly wide, but brighter is maybe the way to think about it, have suddenly become quite compressed and quite narrow. And this is all to do with the fact here that we're changing key, that we're going through this kind of transitional section to take us back to our original material, or something that's reminiscent of our original material in the next little section. So let's try your line, please. Let me play. I won't sing with you this time. I'll just play. Starting note 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there it is, altos. Let's take it one more time. Here it comes. 2, 3, and. There we are. Okay, so how does that fit with what else is going on, I hear you ask? And also, how do we get our note from the previous little interlude? So let's answer that question first with regards to finding your note. So, as we said, when you finish in bar 18, the previous phrase, homine, you stop on that note. That's the same note that you need. But this is what happens in between. Homine. Latus perforatum und affluxit et sanguine. So I'm popping the bass line in there against you as well as you kind of turn over the page so you can hear a bit more of the context as to what's going on there, altos. It is quite a dark section in comparison to the first little bit, and you'll understand why when you kind of get to grips with what the text is saying here. As you can see from the interlude, there's your note given to you before you even sing. So that bar before you come in, there it is. And again, cuius latus perforatum und affluxit et sanguine. Leads us back to there. And as you can see, as I said, that's much more reminiscent of what we had at the start of the piece there, when we get back to that much brighter, happier kind of sound after this little section. So probably in many respects, the trickiest section here to put together is this middle bit. The parts on their own, probably quite straightforward, but it's one of those instances of when you come to put them all together, you tend to find that what's going on in some of the other parts can be a little bit off-putting, and can cause some problems. So that may be something that we need to work on as an ensemble when we can. But in the meantime, the more secure those parts are individually, the easier that should, in theory, be to do. So without further ado, let's go from Homine bar 17 altos, and let's run through this little bit. I shan't sing it with you at all. I'll play something just to kind of outline what's going on in the other parts, and I'll give you your line so that you can try in context with the other parts, and also so you can try finding your note in bar number 22 on cuius latus from that place. So this is bar 17, and it's the same note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Homine. Okay, altos, and that takes us up to the end of that little section. And as I said earlier, you finish that section, sanguine, and you're up a semitone, so there to esto, sorry, and you just lean into it, and that takes you onto the start note for your next phrase in that place. So that's quite a nice one to find from that point of view. Also, the accompaniment, quite helpful here. I'm looking in bar number 29, folks, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. In bar 29, you just finished sanguine, and the piano does ta-da, and you want the keynote of what's going on. From there to there, quite a natural resolution to make. Yes, and this is your part here from this place. So let me go from, oh yeah, unda fluxit, so bar 26 altos. 2, 3, and unda fluxit, et sanguine. Esto nobis pregustatum in mortis examine. Sopranos go, and then you find in mortis examine. Something like that altos at the end there. So when we get to the last section here, not quite as straightforward for a couple of reasons. I think the first part we've got here, esto nobis pregustatum in mortis examine. I think that place, bar 30, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that little section, not too bad. And this is the place where you really, most of it, all the way through here, well, not all the way through, it changes slightly at the end, but most of this you're actually in thirds with the sopranos. And it's quite a nice little section. So your own line, this is the last bar, the top line of the second page. So the last bar, top line, second page, esto nobis, 2, 3, 4. Very straightforward, a nice flowing melody line, probably does pretty much what you expect it to do in many respects. A wee sequence to begin with moving up, and then, as I say, similar to our melody line from previous parts of the piece. From a point of view of breathing here, esto nobis pregustatum, I would breathe after pregustatum, quite a big one there to get you through in mortis examine. and then obviously you've got the rests there to take your breath in thereafter. It would be good to take our breath after pregustatum because the sopranos are going to breathe there. They've got to take quite a quick one there to carry on the rest of their line. The other reason it would be good to breathe there, altos, is that long note in mortis. It is a long one. It doesn't look that long on the page, but the pace that we're moving at, the speed that we're going at, it does drain the voice a little bit in that place. So I would suggest esto nobis pregustatum in mortis examine. And we come off together thereafter. So that seems to me to be the most sensible place to do that. Okay, let's try that, shall we? 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is, I beg your pardon, altos. Last bar, top line, second page, esto nobis. 2, 3, 4. Okay, the other thing to say about this section, if you have a look at it, is obviously we've said the sopranos are with you here. Okay, you're all together up until that point. As you can hear, the majority of that is in thirds. Don't be distracted here, please, when you hear what the tenors and basses are doing. So have a look at your scores with me, and you'll see that in the top line, the last bar of the line, when you and the sopranos come in together, the tenors and basses aren't doing anything at that point. They come in at the beginning of the next bar, at the beginning of bar 31. And they almost provide an echo here, altos, of what you have done. Now, that can be slightly off-putting, obviously, because you might expect all the four voices to be moving here together, but there's an overlap, and it's an intentional overlap. So we should have sopranos and altos in bar 30. So altos, there's you, here's the sopranos. We should have this. That's how the four parts should fit together. And as you can hear there, you move, you move, they move, but we don't move at the same time until we get to the end of the phrase, and then we move together in that place. So just something to be wary of, something to be aware of, nothing to be kind of too put off by, but an awareness of it is useful so it doesn't end up putting us off when we get to that place. Okay, then altos, we've got one last little section here to kind of look at before we get to the end of the piece. So you've just sang what we played there, and then, right, we've got another danger point here, similar to the one that we had at the beginning where I said, you know, you've got your 2-beat rest and the sopranos singing the 2-beat rest, but everybody else waits. It's exactly the same scenario here, but we've got 2 2-beat rests. So we have 4 beats where we have to wait before we make our contribution. And you are with the tenors and the basses here, but not the sopranos. So I'm looking in bar 38, altos. This is the place where this is the case. So sopranos will begin this, in a mo, and then you come in then. So again, there's a real temptation to launch yourself in a wee bit early here and end up in the wrong place at the wrong time and singing over the top of that soprano entry. And that'd be a shame to kind of spoil that silence in the other parts, and it would also obscure that melody line if you were to do that. So it's worth a circle, it's worth a ring round it to make sure that we don't end up doing that by accident. Very, very easy to do, particularly in that place. Okay, so you have just sang in a mortis examine, sopranos. Then you come in here, altos. so just a little bit of filling in roundabout there to make sure that your long held note. That will be much easier when I'm keeping you in the right place so that we don't lose track of the length of these long notes. But in the meantime, I only have two hands, which are here. So that was the basses, sorry, I beg your pardon, the tenor line and the soprano line there that move. And they do help, this is bar 40, they do help to kind of give you some sense of pulse because they're moving on the crotchet all the way through those bars, whereas you are just holding that long note all the way through those particular bars. Finding your note in bar number 38 altos is tricky. This is quite a nasty one. There's a couple of options, but a lot of this will come down to muscle memory, and a lot of it will come down to just lots and lots of repetition until you feel where that particular note is. You finish on the D at the end of bar number 37. Amine, you finish there, and then you have to come in, da, da, up the third. If you like to think of it like that, that's sometimes an easy way to do it. Depends how good your ear is from that point of view. And the other way you can think about it here is the sopranos sing in o, so their G that they sing the in halfway through bar 37. They sing that G. You then have to come in just underneath the G on the F sharp, and then at the beginning of bar 39 you sing that same G. So using that as your cue can sometimes work as well. As I say, it depends on what you prefer here. It depends how well your ear works, or it depends how your ear works in many respects. But going from the D to there, following your own line, or using the soprano part, just coming down from there. G, if you can keep that in your head after they've moved up to their D. But quite a nasty one nonetheless, altos to find. And the chord here is there. You're moving with the tenors and basses, as you can hear there, in a three-part chord underneath the soprano part. So this one might take just a little bit longer to kind of find and to get used to and to feel comfortable with. Let's go from In Mortis Examine. So the last crotchet beat of bar 33, please, altos. In more, and we'll run into this last little bit with you here. I'll sing it once with you, and then I'll play it a couple of times so you can sing along with it on your own. After three, 1, 2, 3. In mortis examine. Sopranos. In mortis examine. There you go, altos, with a bit of filling in roundabout again, as I say. This time I'm not going to sing, I'm just going to play so that you can sing along. Same place, last crotchet beat of bar 33. 1, 2, 3. And there is your line there, altos. From a point of view of some breathing here, esto nobis pregustatum, for breathing there, in mortis examine, all the way to there. You've got lots of time then. In mortis examine. I'd like you to breathe before examine at the end. Not necessarily because I think you need it, but because if we all lift there, it creates just a nice sense of kind of coming together just before we finish the piece there at that point. So a lift there before examine, and also gives us a bit more support, a bit more breath to get through that long held note at the end of the piece, altos too. So well worth doing. All right, excellent. Well, look, that takes us all the way through. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go all the way back to the very, very start, please, altos, and I would like to play the accompaniment for you, not the full accompaniment without any help, but a kind of quasi accompaniment which has got some, quite a lot of help on your part. I'll play your part nice and clearly so you can hear it, so you can sing along with what's going on. And what I'll do also is I'll pop in any really important cues that we definitely need in order to kind of find our way in. So for example, I'll pop the soprano part in bars 14 and 15 with that first silence, that first danger point that we identified. And I'll pop the soprano part in bars 37 and 38, our second danger point there, that we also identified as a place where it might be tempting to come in slightly early unless we're really paying attention as to what's going on. So I'll also pop in the interludes. We'll keep going. We shan't kind of stop and start. If I make any errors, we'll keep going, okay? And we'll get to the end, hopefully together, same place, same time, same key, and all the rest of it. And then yeah, and then I'll give you a chance, as I say, you can rewind this part of the video if you wish and sing through the entire track as many times as you would like to. So back to the start, please, altos, very beginning. And I'll give you the intro and we'll get going. So look, here's the key again. We're in D major. There's your starting note. And we'll have your full intro and then in. Please remember, you've got 2 bars of introduction here. Don't leave it until the very last minute before you take your breath. Use those 2 bars to get your breath in nice and early and make sure that you are ready to attack that first phrase in a really positive way. Not in a loud, robust way, but in a positive way. Yes, there's a difference. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, altos. That takes us all the way through to the end of the piece there. So that should hopefully give us an idea of exactly how everything there that we've looked at together fits together. As I say, please rewind this, use as many of these bits as you wish to help you through this. I hope that's been useful. As I said at the start of the video, this is a new venture completely for all of us. So any feedback, gratefully received. I do hope that you're all staying safe and well, and I hope that you enjoy singing this. I hope that it helps to fill the void a little bit of our Thursday evenings, which I know we're all missing terribly. Altos, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. I hope this has been useful. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that we've got through enough there to give you a good idea of how this piece fits together. And I look forward very, very much indeed to seeing you all on a Zoom call in the near future, whether that's tomorrow evening or whether that's on another Thursday. I look forward to it very much. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks very much. Bye for now.